But it was just like, I can't keep doing this. And if I want to grow, the business that I had was sustainable for me if I wanted to work 80 hours a week
Mhm.
and make just a little bit of money. And it wasn't until I started getting some systems into place that really created that shift. Yeah. That
Preach,
is funny.
preach.
For those of you listening, she's raising her hand, preach, preach. I detest systems. I think systems is almost like a four-letter word. However, it is brilliant and beautiful, and I am such a fan of them. Is it possible to not like something but love something? That's my
Oh, it's called a
relationship with
love-hate
systems.
relationship. That's me with copy. Hey, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Next Step Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Lee Simmons, and I am really excited to bring you my guest today because she has a perspective that never even occurred to me to take. And so I can't wait for her to share it to you. But let me start with an introduction. Her name is Tiffanie, and she travels globally, offering her wisdom through engaging keynote speeches, workshops, and through her online programs that are all designed to leave her audience with some Tiffanies that transform their approach to business and life. She is the author of several books, and her strategies are all about making impossible seem possible. Today, we are going to see how she's going to shift our perspective of seeking balance to finding harmony in our lives and businesses, ensuring we not only succeed, but we enjoy the journey in the process. Tiffanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Allison, for having me. I am excited to be here.
Well, so from the beginning, you've been doing this since 2003. So you've been in the game 20 years.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, I have.
right? Isn't that weird? We all think the early 2000s were like, oh, they just happened. And then we're like, oh, no, it's been a hot minute.
That's 2 decades now.
It's scary, right? But I just let's just start right there. Like, what was the beginning of your journey like? And when did you know that you were making that pivotal transformation from being the operator of your business to being the owner of your business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't plan on being an entrepreneur growing up. That wasn't part of my vision. And life happens as it does for so many of us. And I started my first business and I spent a lot of time those first few years, trial and error, back and forth. Does this work? Does that work? Being a solopreneur and like, what is it I was looking to have happen? And it got to be a point where I was working all day, every day. It's like I get up in the morning, do what I needed to do, and then I would be in meetings and doing work and lunch meetings and doing work in the afternoon and all of this. My husband would drag me away from my computer in the evenings to have dinner. And then I'd grab the computer, do work on the couch all night, it seemed. And then I'd go to bed, dream about all the work I still needed to do that I didn't get done, and wake up the next morning exhausted. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I talk to entrepreneurs all the time. They're like, I'm going to start this business. And we do. And it's like, because we want this flexibility and freedom.
Mhm.
And the majority of entrepreneurs that I talk to are stuck in their business so much that there's no flexibility and freedom.
Right.
At least the 9 to 5, we could cut, shut the computer, leave the office, do whatever. As entrepreneurs, we're like, it's constant all the time.
So, what was the business that you started?
So I originally started with a promotional products business. And so if you wanted your logo on pins, on shirts, all of that. So it was fun, marketing, creative. I have a degree in marketing. So it was a blast doing that. And so it was just a real big learning curve. It wasn't that long. So I graduated from college in 2001, where I had a job. And then 2003, I opened my first business. I had no clue. I had no clue like anything because they don't teach you how to run a business in school.
Mm-mm.
My
Business
marketing
degrees
degree, it's
tend to
like,
teach you very little about business, ironically.
right. Well, it's like, here's your $1 million advertising campaign. How would you spend it?
Right.
I don't know that I made 6 figures my first year even. So there was certainly no massive marketing campaign money.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So then what was the big shift? Talk to me about that moment where you were like, okay, things have got to change and here's how I'm going to do it.
No, it's interesting looking back at this because nowadays we have at our fingertips knowledge, information, community support. But it was just like, I can't keep doing this. And if I want to grow, the business that I had was sustainable for me if I wanted to work 80 hours a week
Mhm.
and make just a little bit of money. And it wasn't until I started getting some systems into place that really created that shift. Yeah. And
Preach,
it's funny,
preach.
for those of you listening, she's raising her hand, preach, preach. I detest systems. I think systems is almost like a four-letter word. However, it is brilliant and beautiful, and I am such a fan of them. Is it possible to not like something but love something? That's my
Oh, it's called a
relationship with
love-hate
systems.
relationship. That's me with copy. I'm a math
Yes,
geek, so systems and workflows are my jam. Make me write
yes.
something. I'm like, oh, can't I just talk? I don't want to write.
Yeah, let's switch because you want me to write, I will write all day for you. You want me to do systems? I'm like, hasn't somebody else already created this?
Right,
Which
right.
is what's so great about online nowadays,
Now,
especially
yeah.
with this coming over that hump and the transition and going from solo to scaling massive. Is there's so much community out there. There's amazing podcasts like, what's the next step? How do we get that and make that happen? And so we have so much more information at our fingertips to help us be successful nowadays.
Yeah, awesome. So now let's dive into, I teased this perspective. So as we start making that transition and we're scaling our business and it's growing and we're excited and we're building a team, but we don't want to be working 80 hours a week anymore, right? There is a difference between, as you say, being harmonious versus finding balance. And to me, that's mind blowing because I'm like, balance, of course, balance should work in your life. And sometimes you work more, sometimes you life more, whatever. And you're like, no, that's not what I mean. So by all, please share the thing.
I started doing yoga and working on my balance. And I've been doing it pretty regularly for the past few years. I am still not very good at it. However, the great thing about yoga is you don't have to be good, it's just practicing it.
Hmm.
But if I'm in a balancing pose for more than a minute or two, I am like shaking. Everything in my body is feeling it. It's like a struggle
Yeah.
to balance. And so, if our idea is we want to strive for balance, which is this hard to maintain kind of thing, are we just setting ourselves up for failure?
That's a great analogy. That is a great analogy because you think of balance as a scale, right? But when you
Mm.
think about you physically balancing, it's exhausting. It sounds great at first, but it's exhausting.
Yeah. Or even if you want to stay on 2 feet, put two things in your hand and see how long you can keep your arms up.
Yeah.
It's something that you can do. And if you remind me, I'll talk to you in a few minutes about being off balanced on purpose, because there is a place and time for that. But to me, I don't want to live a life where balance is something that I'm trying to do. I would much rather be in an even flow and comfort than
Yeah.
trying to maintain this hard to do thing. And
Ooh.
so I'm good on analogies. I like the analogies. And so harmony, I think of music. And what I love about music is it can be super simple, one or two instruments or voices, and it's very, light background, easy flow. It can be massive with an orchestra with tons of instruments. And when they come together, even you can sometimes have discord where it seems like it's not like that perfect in tune kind of you would think of with the acapella singers. And to me, my goal in life is to have harmony. Now, sometimes it's going to be easy flowing, soft. Sometimes it might be a bit massive with a lot of things going on, but it works. And instead of trying to force things into, here's this, I need to balance it with that, it's what's the harmony that I can create within my world. And we need to sleep 8 hours a night ish. That leaves us with 14 hours left in the day. I think if I'm doing my math right, no, 16 hours in the day. See, Friday. That leaves us with 16 hours in the day. And if we're trying to balance it between work and working out and family and chores and all of that, then yeah, there's no way we can create balance with that. But if we can create the harmony of, okay, today I'm going to work 9 hours to do these interviews, to work with these clients, to do this. Tomorrow, I might work 4 hours and have the afternoon to spend time with my puppies or read a good book. And you can kind of play around with what works best for you. But I think when we stop striving for that harmony, it's like, okay, what's the balance? Stop striving for the balance. What's the harmony that we can create?
I love that analogy because, again, I'm even thinking of my husband. My husband sings harmony, and he intentionally, just to mess with me, when we're in church, he'll stand next to me and I'm not a good singer, and I'll sing the melody because, that's what and then he'll purposely lean in and sing harmony just to throw me off. And so I'm taking this analogy to a whole nother level in a sense of like, you need a strong melody to match strong harmony so that they sound good together. And
Yeah.
so again, it's not a balance thing. It's taking these two separate, separate lines, right? And putting them together in a way that they gel and they work together. So yeah, my brain is just exploding because now I love
And
that. What a great,
And then if we think about, including others, you got the 3 kids, you got your husband, and if you were trying to balance all of them, oh my gosh, could you imagine? But if we're creating that harmony amongst all of us, it doesn't have to be equitable per se, like you
yeah,
do half, I do half. It's how
right.
does it fit together?
Oh, I love that. So now let's apply that specifically to business. Give me some situation scenarios where we're finding harmony within our businesses, and whether or not life also tacks it in. But if we could just focus on like the business itself, what does harmony look like within a business?
Well, so I think one of the first things that we have to do within our business is determine what do we love doing in our business and what don't we love doing in our business. Especially as we're talking about scaling. Oftentimes people are like, oh, these are the things that I want to hire for. And I get they're like the basics, bookkeeping, doing the website, the marketing. I get that. But to me, it's also about what lights you up from the inside. What do you love to do versus what don't you love to do? And so while I don't love to do bookkeeping, so that's something that goes away pretty quickly. Right, right.
Not geek. I'm like bookkeeping, my favorite time of the week.
Well, and so to me, when I start with the scaling conversation is okay, what are the things that I love to do? Then I do have to ask, what are the things that make me the most money?
Yeah.
Because like I love the marketing side and I love the writing side, but for me to sit down and do all of my social media, to do all of my scripting, to do all of that stuff takes a long time and I'm better served outside of that. So I think it's figuring out what do you love to do that lights you up and makes you money.
Yeah.
And then trying to find other people to take care of the rest of that because if we are, doing what lights us up, it takes us less energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It fulfills us in a way that the other stuff doesn't, and we're more productive.
Oh, that's so true. It's so true. When I'm doing a podcast interview, I'm in my element. I'm excited. I can't wait. And then I sit down and I'm like, okay, it's time to edit.
Ugh.
Like that energy just goes. And I don't mind video editing when I am creating an ad or something, but it's like editing a podcast is not quite the same as like creating a video to promote a product for my client. Like it's totally different video editing energy. So yeah, I feel really called out right now.
Well, and that's to me the beautiful thing is, and this is what, especially those of you solopreneurs listening, you don't have to do it all. I know you can do it. And I'm talking to you listening. I'm not talking to Allison with her editing. I know that y'all can do it, but do we really want to do that? And I had to do that about 10 years ago. I'm like video editing and I'm like, I can do it and it's fun. And I'm like, I just spent 3 hours doing this and I could have paid somebody
Right.
15 bucks.
Right.
What's my
And
time worth?
exactly. And I think that's just it. It's that ROI isn't necessarily how much money am I going to make back? It's how much time am I going to save, which can be more valuable. So just getting rid of those things that you don't need to do. So you mentioned that there's this misconception as solo entrepreneurs, or even with maybe one person on our team, that we have to do it ourselves. What are some misconceptions that business owners have about finding harmony in their life as opposed to balance, and what all that would be?
Well, I think people have very rigid ideas of I want to try and do work and I want to do personal. But let's say that I'm hanging out here in my area and I need to do some networking. Well, can I pick a networking event that is something that I enjoy a little bit more than others? Not that I mind going to the bank and having it there, but if I can go to the brewery, because I'm big into the craft beer, I much prefer to go networking at the brewery than I do at the bank.
Right.
Again, nothing against the bank. It's just a little bit more fun.
Uh-huh.
And so I think sometimes it's about mixing fun with the work.
Okay, I like that idea. So let's jump on that. You just brought up networking. Networking is like my thing for 2024. I am all about it. So I do it all virtually because I live in Podunk, Northern California, and networking opportunities in person don't exist. Okay, where I am. I mean, maybe they do, but they don't. So not if I don't want to drive 3 hours to like one main city. But talk to me about networking and how you incorporate that into your business, into being harmonious. I know you kind of said like do it where you enjoy it, But what does networking look like for you and how do you use it in your business?
Yeah, so I think this idea of really just loving life is about finding the networking groups that you enjoy being at. I have been networking hardcore since 2005. I teach people how to network. And I think that if you try to force yourself to go to a group that you don't love,
Mm.
it's not going to be as strong as if you really enjoy being there every day. So I just resigned from a group a couple of months ago that was a good group and it was decent, but I dreaded every time it was time to go to that meeting. And I'm like,
How
this
come?
is
What did you dread about it?
it just it's a little drier than I prefer. Those of you listening can't see, but on the wall behind me, I actually have fun. As my three things are money, time, or fun. Um, and I'm all about that. And so it's a little dry, and there was a little bit negativity in the group. I'm really
Mm.
big about positive, positive, positive.
Yeah.
I do a 30-day no complaining challenge. It's just like, how can we always make this good? And it was a little bit more negative than I prefer. And so, and I was getting a little bit of business, but not a ton. And the combination of all of that was just like, I need to let this go and find something that lights me up. I haven't found it yet, but I am searching.
I love that you bring that up because again, if we're talking about harmony, the energy that you put out, you want to get back. And when you're
Right.
constantly pouring energy out and it's like, just dropping or going out into the abyss, it's hard to maintain that level of energy. That is the one thing that people continually say about me is, "Oh, you got so much energy." And I'm like, "Yeah, but there are people that like suck the energy and
Yes.
that'll kill you." Yeah, so I love that you
And
brought that up.
I'm a hardcore introvert. So for people listening, they're like, wait, I'm an introvert. I don't like networking. You're like, I like it. Networking is like not high on my list, which is why it's so important for me to find a group that I love. I'm already doing something that's a little outside of my comfort zone. I mean, put me on stage in front of 1,000 people, no big deal. Go network with 20 people I don't know. That takes more energy out of me. Now, afterwards, the speaking, I'm done, but
Yeah.
energy wise, but it's, harder mentally preparing to go into that. And so I think it's important to figure that out. And then what I love about networking is creating goals.
Mhm.
And so if I have my goals, I can go into the networking event, hit whatever it is. I say go into it, could be in person, it could be virtual as well. Hit my goals, and then I can move on to the next thing.
What are some
Now,
of the
to
goals that you
keep,
set? Sorry.
so sometimes it can be meeting certain kinds of prospects.
Okay.
More often, I'm looking for referrals for the people in my network. So I'm often going to networking events. One of my favorite questions to ask is, are there any struggles or challenges you're facing in your business?
Mhm.
Because that gives me an opportunity for people to share. And then I can think, oh, who do I know that could help them with that? And
Oh,
so
I love that.
one of my goals is how many referrals can I create? I'm always looking to find those potential referral sources. If somebody has a stage to speak on or a podcast, that's a bonus, but not always something that happens.
Mhm. So many great nuggets. Oh my goodness. Like I'm gonna have to go back to listen to my own episode and like take notes. It's like these are so many good because I just networking is like a new thing for me. I'm an extrovert. That is my focus for 2024 is to be more strategic about my networking. But what I'm totally loving, the takeaway I just took from there is not necessarily going to networking saying, how is this going to benefit me? But how can I grow my pool of people that I can refer out to and refer into and then, it's that idea of a great leader doesn't just go up the ladder, they take people with them. And I just love that. That is, oh, talk about harmony. Like that just makes you feel good, right? It's not, all for me. It's all for one, all one for all.
we
So
the first book I wrote is called 4.5 Networking Mistakes. It's here's all the thing the experts tell you to do in networking that you shouldn't do. Because there's something we call a funneling conversation. And you can utilize it when you're networking. And in less than a minute, you can determine if the person that you're talking to would be a good referral source for you, a good prospect for you, or neither. And so less than a minute, you're able to figure out if the person in front of you need to have more conversation with or not.
or
And
you
so,
politely end the conversation.
yes, yes, yes. I think that's networking nugget number 15, gracefully leave the conversation. But yeah, because if you go to a networking event and you spend 45 minutes talking to somebody that's not a good fit, did you just waste your time or invest it? And you've wasted it. So I'm all like spend 5-7 minutes max with each person that you meet. Use the funneling conversation because that will get you in and get you out. And
Okay, so
so that
say
one
the name of the book again for everybody.
so it's called 4.5 Networking Mistakes. And it's the things the experts tell you to do that you shouldn't do when networking. And it does include 19 networking nuggets, which is what to do before, during, after the event, plus how to deal with networking nervousness for those of you like me that get nervous when we go networking.
Oh, I love it. All right. That'll be in the show notes for everybody because like I said, networking is my jam this year. So that's
Yeah.
super exciting. I absolutely love that. All right. So I want to circle back to this idea of harmony and just talk about juggling some of the honestly, as we start to hit that point where we want to scale, right? And we're always trying to decide what to prioritize. And so, what are some of the things that you see with entrepreneurs as they're on the verge of exploding in their business and they're like, how do I maintain harmony in my business and know what to prioritize? Because we all know that when everything is important, nothing is important. So, what does it look like to have harmony while prioritizing something over something else?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Eisenhower, I'm sorry, the urgent important matrix. Most people think of it as Covey's. He uses it as well.
Mhm.
So it's 4 quadrants. It
Right.
takes a look. And so the first quadrant is what's urgent and important. And
Mhm.
that's where most people live their life. Of I have to get it done and we're stressed. The second quadrant is what's important but not urgent. And what I find is as we're truly scaling our business, as we're truly being successful, instead of the quadrants being 4 equal, you want quadrant 2, important, not urgent, to be half or 2/3 of your time, if at all possible, because these are the things that are going to make a difference.
Mhm.
You have the quadrant where it's not important, not urgent. Like, why do we even do these things?
Right. Cross them off the
What the
list.
heck? And then
Right.
we have the urgent but not important. And to me, the urgent and not important, these are the tasks that we want to immediately give and hire people to do because they need to be done. Back in the day when I was in the promotional product business, yeah, we need to call and check up on the orders. We need to get the artwork done. But I didn't need to be the one that's doing all that menial stuff.
Mhm.
Like, let me deal with the clients, talk to them, be out there doing the networking, not let me do the stuff that I can pay somebody, you know. And I'm a very visual person. And so I like these little sticky notes for those of you listening. I think they're like 2.5 by 1 inch, 3 inch by 1 inch. They're little small sticky notes. And as I'm doing things throughout the day, I'll start writing them on the sticky notes, what I'm doing. And I just pile up my sticky notes. And then I create, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll put them on my whiteboard. I have some giant post-it notes. I'm such a nerd. Or I'll just use a piece of paper
Yeah.
if I'm lacking supplies. And then I start putting each task that I've been doing on the form, whatever I'm using. And I can see, okay, what's urgent and important. Now that means this is my task for today, tomorrow, the next day. I can also look at what can I eliminate? What can I reassign to someone else? Because to
Oh,
me, that's going to make the huge difference. And so it's not easy to say, okay, this is the task to get rid of. This is the thing to hire. This is how you scale because it varies so much between
sure.
professions and each person and their
Mhm.
skill set. Oftentimes people that want to scale, the number one thing they want to do is hire a salesperson. You ain't ready for that. That it should not be your first hire, y'all. You gotta get the systems in place and have the stuff backed up for it. You may hate doing sales, but you're selling all the time. I mean, if you want to convince your spouse, hey, here's where we're going to go to dinner. You want to convince your kids to clean. Hey, you're selling them on an idea. So, get
Right.
over being a salesperson. Everybody is a salesperson all the time. And I'm not saying you can't have a salesperson, but usually people that hire a salesperson as their first or second hire, you're not going to be successful with that. I'm not going to say the business will fail, but usually it's really hard to be successful without that backup team because then you're going to turn into the admin person.
Mhm. Oh,
And if you were going to be
absolutely.
the admin person anyway, why don't you just go work 9 to 5 in the admin? You'd have less headache.
No kidding, and a guaranteed paycheck. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, the other thing that I think is really interesting that you said this is because as online service providers, especially one-on-one services like I do, we're thinking, well, I'm maxed out on my clients. I can't possibly prospect new clients. And then we stop that part of the sales. We lose a
Hmm.
client for whatever reason. And then we're like, oh crap, how am I going to make bills next month? Well, you have to keep having those conversations.
Yeah, because what happens is when you start, and this is why so many entrepreneurs end up on a roller coaster because it's like, I'm so busy
Mhm.
and I'm full. I can't take any more. And we stop marketing, we start networking, we start being visible. And
Yep.
then we're like, oh, I've lost this client. I lost this client. No new clients are coming in. And then we get in this mad panic mode of network marketing, social media, blah, blah, blah. We're doing it all. And then we're like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I don't have any time to do this. So we stop doing the marketing again. And so
Right.
we're on this roller coaster.
Right.
It's and so it is important to stay consistent, to be visible if you want people to come through your door and become your clients.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we got to avoid the feast or famine, which again, that is part of that transformation between, where you've made some success, you've experienced some success, and now you have to transition to the next level. So
Yeah.
this has been fantastic. Okay, so before we close up shop, I always like to ask my guests to, of course, I want you to share all the things about yourself, where people can find you and how they can work with you. But beyond that, I want you to give your last gold nugget next step for my listeners, given the fact that they're in this transition phase where they desperately want harmony, but they're not there yet. So what's their next step?
So I'm going to give two next steps if that's okay, because the majority of your listeners aren't going to do the next step that's going to create the most value for them, because it's not fun. It's not easy. It takes some time. However, I think it's like mind blowing when you get the results. I highly recommend that you track your time. Maybe not forever. Like 2 or 3 days will still give you insights. Now, I found a tracker. I paid for, I think I paid $6 for the upgrade. It's free. It's a one-time thing, at least when I got it. And it tracks everything. So you can go in and say, do this and this, and then it'll turn it into charts and graphs. And you can export the information into Excel. I mean, you could keep it handwritten, but then you have to do stuff with it.
Yeah.
Because this will really give you oh, wow, I'm watching like 20 hours of TV a day. That might be why I'm not getting anything done.
You mean not just tracking business time, you mean tracking all your time.
I recommend you track all of your time. So I do this 3 or 4 times a year. Usually it's just 2 or 3 days, occasionally a week. But it gives me, it's a kind of a self audit to see where I'm spending my time. And circling back around to what I mentioned earlier about being off balanced on purpose or in discord,
Oh, yeah.
I know where my time things are. So when it came to book number 2, I wanted to write it. But book number 1 sat on my to-do list for like 5 years, and I was not wanting to do that again. So I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. My biggest time things that were non-work related: reading fiction, watching TV, and like hanging out with my hubby, having adult beverages. We like to sit on the tail bed of the truck because he's country and I'm Southern, so it works. I decided I didn't want this book to sit on my to-do list forever. So I said, I'm going to do my normal day, work, sleep, work out, all that stuff. But I don't get to do any of those 3 things until the book is done. 10 days later, I had 26,000 words for my book. I shut the computer. I'm like, hey, honey, get me a beer and turn on the TV, please.
You can back the truck up and I can sit in the truck bed, watch TV through the window, and you drinking the beer. Love it. Love
But
it.
so I highly, highly, highly recommend tracking your time, because it just makes things so much more clear. But again, it's not one that most people
Not
do.
sexy. It's not sexy.
It's not
No one
sexy.
wants
So
to.
here's a next step to help you create a little bit more time today. So these lovely smart devices that we have, phones that rule our lives now,
Mhm.
2 things with them. Number 1, turn off all non-essential notifications. I get text messages and phone calls is the only reason it makes a ding between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. because I have do not disturb on the other time. So I'm not getting disturbed, because every time that phone dings or you see the screen flash and you look at it, it takes 64 seconds to get back focused. So I had one person, they were like, I've got like an extra 2 hours in my day because of just this. And if you have those apps, this was something I found out accidentally and I was shocked. I was opening Facebook all the time throughout the day without realizing it. It was automatic. So now if I start getting comfortable with stuff, I'll move around. So I make sure I don't get in the habit of, let me just go on Facebook, because that's one of my time suckers. And so moving the app has made a difference for me. So those would be my 2 phone related next step, immediate results: turn off all unnecessary notifications and move the apps if you're going to them too much.
Ooh. Yeah, that last one stings, because I know I'll get a text message from my husband and then I'm like, oh, real quick, I'll just check, because I did turn off my notifications. I don't get Facebook or Instagram notifications, but every single time I get a notification on my phone, I will then check social media. And
Yeah.
you're right. You don't think about it, but you're like, I lost an hour before lunch just scrolling mindlessly.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to scrolling mindlessly. My husband's love language is reels. So I at least once a week have to go see all the reels that he sent me.
Yeah.
But I want to do it with intention. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's not a big deal. Hey, these are the 20 minutes I'm going to go online or whatever it may
Right.
be. But yeah, we don't want to lose that time because for most people that I talk to, they have plenty of time. They just have to reallocate it. It's just how do you create the harmony where it works?
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, tell people where they can find you and all the good things.
All right. So when my parents named me Tiffany IE, I wasn't really sure about that. I could never find anything spelled the right way when I was growing up. However, it works really great because Tiffanie, Tiffanie, Kellogg, Kellog, I have on pretty much everything. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, on YouTube, TiffanyKellogg.com. Tiffanie Kellogg is me pretty much everywhere you go. So I'm easy to find.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for being on here. Thanks again for being on the podcast today. And everybody, I know that you got something out of that episode because we hit a lot of wickets. But go ahead and shoot Tiffany a message if you want to connect with her. Thanks again for listening. Go out today, make a plan, and take action.